A very good evening and welcome once again to Terrace Talk. And as always, we have a very busy show lined up for you this evening. We look back at yesterday's hurling loss for the Kingdom. They did brilliantly to get to the Division 2A final, but conditions, poor elements at yesterday's venue in Cusack Park didn't help Kerry's cause at all. And, Westmeath in the end ran out 2-point winners. The mainstream of the second hour tonight is refereeing in our county. And, we've been talking for quite a while about the standard of refereeing, wanting young referees to get into the game and what is stopping them. And tonight we'll have an experienced panel in the second hour that have refereed many moons ago, present referees and experienced men, and doing very hard work here in the county of Kerry, because there's a lot of games we've seen over the weekend, the divisions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the referees that have to go to those games. And tonight is raise the profile of refereeing. Maybe there's young people out there, maybe don't want to play the game when they've come a certain age, and maybe take up refereeing. And if you were a Gaelic football referee, what would you make when a defending player plays the ball which strikes the corner flag and goes over his own in-line? A defending player plays the ball which strikes the corner flag and comes back into play. A defending player plays the ball which strikes a corner flag and goes over the sideline. An attacking player plays the ball and strikes the corner flag and goes over the opponent in-line. All those questions will be answered by our panel tonight. And if you have any questions for that refereeing panel even, please don't hesitate in contacting us tonight. And like we say, we'll look back at the weekend sport, and of course there's a great weekend coming up as well as far as Gaelic football is concerned. Of course, Dr. Crokes playing that senior club final in Croke Park on St. Patrick's Day, and the night before in Tralee. What a brilliant occasion that will be. Kerry taking on Mayo and hopefully getting into a league final. Also Brid Stack, 11 All-Ireland medals by Brid Stack, of course announced her retirement last month, and played with Cork, and what an achievement by that lady. And we'll have a pre-recording of that interview done by Eamon Hickson later on in the programme. And also the number of clubs over in London. We, of course, over the last couple of weeks, we've heard from players, both from SPA and Dr. Crokes playing in London. And, of course, Kerry Kingdom Gaels, a great tradition and great link here with our own county, looking for players. Anybody travelling or looking for work in London, I take it, maybe being part of a GAA club does help your cause to advance. And we should be speaking to Alan Bailey, of course, a native of Kiel, later on in the programme. And what an amazing week it was. And we'll talk about before I talk about great comebacks, yesterday, reverting back to the hurling, Shane Conway, a man that's been absolutely brilliant, the Lixnaw man, playing in the Fitzgibbon Cup with UCC. Well, yesterday he came in for a lot of attention. The third man tackled. Anytime he'd pass the player, there was another one waiting for him, and it was like persistent fouling. And it'll relate to our refereeing and the topics we'll discuss with him later on. But if you were at that game and saw the attention that Shane Conway got yesterday, and different players took different cards to stop him on his stride. So if you have any views on that, please don't hesitate in contacting us tonight. And you can call us on 066 71 23666, text on 083 300 3300, Terrace Talk on Facebook, or tweet at Terrace Talk RK, Terrace Talk at Radio Kerry.ie. And now we'll speak about comebacks, and there's been amazing comebacks over the years, and some mentioned here by our producer tonight. Arsenal 4-4 against Newcastle in the Premier League, and then Bayern Munich against United in the Champions League. So with Man United's comeback last week in the second leg of the Champions League for the last 16 tie against PSG, we decided to look back at some other great Champions League comebacks.
For Dwight York, cleared, Giggs with a shot, Sheringham! Beckham into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! Intense pressure now on the Paris Saint-Germain defence. It's Neymar trying to feed it through, it's a stretch, and it's in! And I can't remember the last time I saw something like this! Extraordinary scenes at the Nou Camp. Sergio Roberto, the substitute, is the hero of the hour, and it is the greatest Champions League knockout comeback of all time. In towards Gerrard! Hello! Here we go! Steven Gerrard puts a
so. Harman. Hit by Smeetser. It's in! It's in! Vladimir Smeetser! 2 goals in 2 minutes for Liverpool. Into Barros, he's laid it off. It's Gerrard, he was held. He's given the penalty. He's given the penalty. Oh, saved by Dina Xabi Alonso. And Mission Impossible is accomplished. Liverpool were 3-0 down 5 minutes ago. And now look at that scoreline.
Why not hit it?
Corner, to a deflection.
Now then, the VAR is involved here.
It's a handball, no question. Or arm ball.
VAR. Penalty! Incredible!
I told you, he's given the penalty.
4th minute of stoppage time. Rashford against Buffon. It's Rashford! And Manchester United have produced the impossible. Rashford, nerves of steel.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant there, and I'd have to say from being in the commentary position at times, that's a dream from any commentator when teams come back rather than be totally one-sided. And well, for our listeners out there, any comeback, be it soccer, be it football, be it rugby, if you have any mention, or if you want to get a mention of your own club tonight, please don't hesitate in contacting us here on Terrace. I'm sure there was great comebacks down through the years. And of course, we look at the junior, intermediate, senior finals. The Kerry teams have represented Kerry. I'm sure there was brilliant comebacks in that. Even to win a county title here in the Kingdom, I'm sure there's been a fight back. Maybe you were down at half time and come back and win it. So if there's any memories there, and I suppose they evoke a lot, those big games, of course, the Munich and United, of course, Liverpool and AC Milan. If you have anything similar to those where there's a great comeback, please don't hesitate in contacting us here tonight on Terrace Talk. Now, we switch disciplines from soccer. We spoke about it there. We talk about hurling. Of course, Kerry went to Cusack Park yesterday, taking on Westmeath in the Division 2A final. And one man that was there playing for the Kingdom is Brian Murphy. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening. How are we getting on, Tim?
Well, Brian, I want to thank you first for coming on here in Terrace. It was very difficult coming off a loss, especially in a final, and to present yourself for a programme no different to ourselves. But it probably was a tough one to take. But when you look back, I suppose, first of all, we talk about the elements of the game. The weather was very poor, Brian.
Yeah, I suppose on the day itself, there was you could say the 4 seasons. We faced the weather from the duration of the game. Like, the sun was shining at one stage and you experienced snow, hail. The wind obviously was very strong. Like in the first half, obviously we played with the aid of the breeze, but maybe we didn't take enough advantage of it in the first half ourselves, and kind of we paid for it in the end, but obviously it was very tough conditions to play in.
Yeah. Tough. Could you say about Kerry? Of course, Kerry, like you say, played with a very strong wind in that first half. And when the ball was going in, it was going into the full forward line, but it was probably coming out as fast at times as well, because they were a very strong physical side, Westmeath.
Yeah, that's kind of where we fell down, maybe. Our delivery kind of didn't suit our forwards, maybe you could look at it that way. A lot of our forwards be quick and light, kind of, maybe the weather kind of suited Westmeath more. They're kind of physically stronger. They're big, tough individuals, so it kind of didn't really suit our forwards, I suppose, on the day itself. The elements, you've lads there, very skillful hurlers, where on a dry day they'd dominate, but I suppose both teams had to play in the same conditions, and ourselves, we were disappointed with our performance on the day. And look, I suppose Westmeath were the better team when you look at it. But 2 points, that was all that was in it on the day, and I think a goal either way probably would have changed the momentum,
Yeah, it would have been decisive. When you look back at that first half, and Timmy Sheehan mentioned it during our commentary, Brian, that Kerry, he was measuring it, that Kerry need at least 7 or 8 points, and that's the way it transpired.
Yeah.
Even when you were shooting for goal, that was a cross-field wind as well. It was very difficult to hit the target yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, you even saw it last night on the Sunday game. On most of the games, there were difficult conditions for most games that were on yesterday. And look, it was, I suppose, important to build up a big lead at the start. Now, we started slow ourselves. Westmeath got 2 points at the beginning before we got on the scoreboard at all. So I suppose we kind of started slow in the first 10 minutes or so there. So it was kind of, it was our own fault as we saw it going in at half time. I know we went in, I think, 5 points up. You probably want 6 or 7 point lead, as you said, Timmy said, going in at half time. I suppose 5 points wasn't really a lot when you take the elements into account. When you go out and you're facing into a gale force breeze in the second half, like it's hard to build up your play going into that difficult conditions.
Can I ask you about? I know you don't want to talk about referees, Brian, but you'd have to. Yeah. I know the referee, of course, the man that was officiating the game, he went off injured. Then there was a change of ref, but you'd have to look, and it must be frustrating for you as a player. The Shane Conway came in for a lot of close attention. I know he's an outstanding player, but persistent fouling him. What's your take on that?
Yeah, obviously Shane is an outstanding player. Like, he's a great individual, but I thought he wasn't really protected. Maybe at the beginning he was, when the first referee was in charge of the proceedings. Like, but when the referee changed in, I know he got injured, but the new referee came in, and I don't think he kind of treated him as he didn't protect him as much as he should have, maybe. And I know with our forwards there, Jordan Conway and maybe Dan Goggin came on the second half, were kind of, they were crowded out of it at the same time, but there was still high tackles coming in on several occasions, like there, I remember one instance there in the first half when Shane was through and he was actually tapped the ball over the bar, but on another day would have gone into the net, but he was tackled 4 or 5 times coming through. Yeah, and
that was very noticeable, that once there go, and there was another guy waiting behind. Obviously they had targeted, and it must be very frustrating that you'd say you issue, because we saw it, and the last time I seen this was in a football match with Darren O'Sullivan years ago at minor level against Tyrone, that different players took cards on the day for him, and it seems to be the same formula yesterday for the Westmeath side.
Yeah, I suppose, look, they've seen Shane as probably our go-to man when it comes to scoring, and I think he probably got abuse on and off the ball, but look, he's well used to it at this stage, playing at Fitzgibbon level as well. Like, he knows what he's in for at this stage, and he's well able to take it. But at the same time, it's up to referees to protect him, and I know there was a bit of messing on the sideline as well and stuff yesterday, which was, I suppose, uncalled for at times, but sure, look, that's what you're dealing with. And was that inter-county level, and you have to kind of just grit your teeth and drive on, And
is that kind of an intimidating thing coming from opposing mentors or on the sideline, Brian?
You saw it yourself. You were at the game yesterday, and you saw it yourself. There was kind of, I suppose, kind of between our mentors and their mentors, and maybe their Mariscas, and there was kind of just maybe comments coming in left, right, and centre, Yeah. Even if Shane was taking frees, they'd be coming in and out, trying to intimidate him, I suppose, which is, that's the tactic they came down with, but obviously it worked for them on the day.
Yeah, so. Correct. It got over the line, but I don't think it'd be a Kerry tactic. Brian, I suppose when you measure it the second half, we can't talk much about it because Kerry found it very hard to get into the attacking side of the field. But when you look at the league as a whole and going to a league final, I take it you wanted to play at a higher level. You as a player, and you'd represent the rest of the players, that you feel you become a better hurler. And other people then, when you say, look, maybe Kerry are better off, maybe that we don't have that material yet to compete at that level, what would you say to that?
What I'd say to that is, I know on the outside looking in, maybe people wouldn't have that high expectations, but inside the panel we have massive expectations for ourselves. We've 30 hurlers there that we feel can play at a higher level, and I suppose we were very disappointed with the loss yesterday. People were saying that league finals is nearly a bonus game, but to us that was our target at the start of the year. We wanted to gain promotion, so we were obviously heartbroken yesterday to lose the game, but we feel that we're really capable of hurling up there at the likes of, I know Carlow and Offaly played yesterday. Offaly are down now.
Carlow promoted.
We're well capable of playing Carlow, Lynch, Dublin, those sides. They're the teams you want to be playing. Next year now we'll be playing, I think it's Wicklow, Mayo, and there's the two or three other teams, but I don't know, is that going to bring us on as individuals or not? But I know you're winning games, which is obviously it's a positive, but at the same time you want to be competing at the highest level. That's where you're going to improve yourself,
And that's why you're there as a player. But exactly. One thing you can look forward to, Brian, you and the players and the management, the Joe McDonagh Cup.
Exactly, that's another. No, I saw the bettings at the start of the year, and we were bottom of the pile. But look, obviously they'll probably have changed now when they've seen that we get to the league final. But obviously inside the camp, we'd be confident going into that competition now. The summer hurling will suit us more. I think we're free flowing hurlers, and And I suppose we play a good running game as well in the summer, which will hopefully suit us better than the conditions we've had to play in throughout the league.
As we said, the top of the ground.
Yes, exactly. You know, we've light skillful hurlers there in the forwards especially, and I think when our forwards are on form, we're a very hard opposition to beat. And obviously you've the likes of Offaly now and Joe McDonough, you've Lynch, teams like that. So obviously you'll be pitting yourself up against those teams. And obviously Westmeath again will obviously want to get one over on them after the beating us yesterday. And I think we're more than capable of winning it. Like, you know,
it'll be different.
I don't think we didn't do ourselves justice yesterday, and you know that kind of that showed in the result in the end.
Well, Brian, that's very positive from you, and I'm delighted to have you on Terrace Talk tonight. And we'll be following you on that Joe McDonough Cup and commiserations about yesterday, but it's only a case of moving forward. Well done again. Thank you.
All right, Tim.
That's great stuff. That's Brian Murphy. Isn't that a breath of fresh air here tonight on Terrace Talk, with the emotion that man and the passion he speaks for? He wants to play at a higher level, and absolutely refreshing to speak to guys like that. And his heart and soul is in Kerry Hurling, and delighted. These guys are going to go places. Plenty more after this break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry, brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie, leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
Indeed, you're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk, and those comments coming through to us, of course, we referenced there about great comebacks, and those texts coming in. In the first Munster Champions Trophy final, Killarney Celtic were 1-0 down going into the last minute in Turner's Cross. Peter McCarthy equalised with seconds to go, just as I was on Radio Kerry. Celtic won on penalties. Players' sense of timing can make commentators' life very easy, and that comes from Padraig Harnett. Well, Padraig, they might make it easy as far as to generate and deliver and execute a great commentary, but also your heart and cardiac arrest. Lots of things could happen to a commentator when he gets into the edge of the seat and those nail-biting seconds when the game is in the melting pot. Hi Tim, thanks for bringing great memories of Liverpool's comeback in Istanbul. Happy birthday to yourself and Eamon Hickson, and that comes to Charles. Well, whatever about Eamon Hickson, when you reach my age, birthdays, you should keep them quiet. But thanks a million, Charles, for that this evening. Now I should have the County Board GAA Chairman on the line, and that is Tim Murphy. Good evening, Tim.
Good evening, Tim. How are you?
And you're welcome once again to Terrace Talk. Tim, I don't know if you heard it there, but I had Brian Murphy, of course, and he actually had a brilliant game himself. Finan McAsee and a number of other players yesterday, and of course Mikey Boyle went off injured. But the passion and the emotion shown by him, and that he totally disappointed. He mentioned what was in the dressing room after. These guys want to go places, these Kerry hurlers.
Absolutely. I was in the dressing rooms myself with them after Tim, and they were devastated. They set out as one of their objectives at the start of the year, obviously, to get promotion, and unfortunately that didn't happen yesterday. It certainly wasn't from lack of effort. They put a huge amount of effort in. I suppose going back to the end of November, between gym and field work, and they're putting a huge amount of work in. Yesterday was just a very difficult day for Kerry. The weather conditions obviously didn't help matters. But having said that, there's a huge amount of work going in by the management and by the players, and to get to the league final was an achievement in itself. Having said that, it was a disappointment they didn't get promotion. They'll be the first to admit that themselves. But nonetheless, I think there's good progress, Tim, in Kerry hurling over the last number of years, and they can look forward, I think, now again to the Joe McDonough Cup. You know, they're going to be very competitive in that as well, and who knows where that'll go. Yeah, definitely. And to the game itself, you know, great to be there. And Westmeath are a very strong physical side, Tim. But conditions, I know they were the same for both teams, but I think actually conditions worsened in the second half and made that uphill task a lot. When they got close to Kerry, it made it very difficult for Kerry even to get out of their own half, because it was wind. It was more like a storm than anything else. There's no question. The wind certainly picked up in the second half, and the weather conditions disimproved. We were 5 points up at half time. Probably wasn't enough of a lead, and obviously proved to be the case in the finish. And I think, like Brian Murphy mentioned, if you look at the other games, if you look at Offaly's loss, against Carlow, they had a quite significant lead again. So the weather conditions definitely played a part in the result yesterday. But overall, Tim, it has to be said that the Kerry hurlers really put in an awful lot of hard work, and have done so over many years. But like even in the last 2 years in particular, an awful lot of new players have been given an opportunity to play, and we've some of the best hurlers in the country. To be fair, maybe don't always get the exposure that other counties get, but nonetheless, these guys are putting in the effort as much as anyone else, and they deserve the rewards. And I think with time that'll happen too.
Definitely so, and I just mentioned it there about the passion in that man's voice. There's this breed of Kerry hurler. It was always there, but now they have a good balance between youth and experience. These guys they've big expectations of themselves, and they want to get out of that division, and that probably, hopefully, will happen next year.
Well, that's it. Look, you heard Brian earlier. They set out at the start of the year to get promotion. It all looked quite positive right up to yesterday, and for whatever reason yesterday it didn't go according to plan. But they're very driven people, the players and the management as well, I would say, to be fair to them, in terms of where they want to go. And next year is obviously, everyone's going to have to wait next year to get promotion in the league. But the Joe McDonagh is coming up now in May, and I think Kerry are going to be very competitive in that team.
Yeah, they do, and like I said, I suppose to set a few records straight, and they'd hopefully meet Westmeath again. And I tell you, if they're the top of the ground, it could be a different story. Tim, can we switch from the small ball to the big ball? At the minute, things going really well, and the Alliance National Football League for the Kingdom, for Peter Keane, his management team and players. Exciting time right around our county. And what a big event we have here in Tralee next weekend. Austin Stack Park could possibly replicate what happened against Dublin, hopefully.
Yeah. It's look, there's a real feel-good factor in Kerry with the success of the football team at the moment, Tim, and no doubt about that. The night in Austin Stack Park when Dublin came to Tralee was a fantastic, unique occasion. I think even surpassed their visit 2 years ago in terms of the atmosphere. The whole occasion for the town and for the whole county was incredible, really, and was commented on by many people. Even a number of national journalists would have contacted me after the event who weren't at the game at all. They could actually see it on TV. The significance of it and the actual occasion that it was, and look, we can look forward certainly to a similar occasion. I think on Saturday night against Mayo. Again, it's a sellout crowd, and Mayo are coming down. They're obviously in with a possible chance of making a league final, depending on how other results go. So they'll be coming to win, and Kerry will be obviously doing the same to keep the winning record going, Tim. So it has all the hallmarks of being another great occasion for all involved in the GAA and for the Austin Stack Park Committee as well. I think they deserve a special mention. They've a huge amount of work done, over the last, I suppose, 6 months and over the last 2-3 years in particular, and have been supported as well by the businesses of the town of Tralee and everything they're doing. So it's a great occasion all around, I would say. Yeah, definitely so.
Tim, can I ask you, and I'm sure that we'll have texts in here to the programme tonight in relation to tickets, and I probably there dealt with another side of the administration, but what's the official capacity of Austin Stack Park at the minute?
As it stands at the moment, Tim, I think it's just short of 12,000, I think, or a little bit. I think it's about 12,300, I think, officially is the official capacity.
And we're hearing on a daily basis the tickets are probably sold out for that. Any chance that any more will come on stream, Sissy?
I'm not sure about that. Again, Tim, that's with all league games. The county board don't actually distribute the tickets. That's done nationally. Through Crow Park and Ticketmaster and the super values, etc. But there's a possibility. I think some tickets did become available later in the week before the Dublin game. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen again. But yeah, look, it's a huge occasion, Tim. It's going to be a great night in store, I think, as well. And we have Liam O'Connor again lined up to entertain the crowd. He went down really well, I think, against Dublin. People were in early, and it was a great night's entertainment all round, I think.
Yeah, definitely in a carnival atmosphere, and like you say, there's a great spill for the local economy as well. Tim, just actually, we got a text in earlier as well in relation to the hurling. We mentioned about the growth and Brian Murphy there and the hunger he wants for success, but Tralee Parnell's a huge success, especially that's in an urban area. It's here in the town, and that can only be the makings of hurling especially in an urban area where you've got the numbers and hopefully more people will join.
No doubt, and huge credit due to the people involved with Parnell's over the last number of years. Yeah. They've put a huge amount of work in promoting the game of hurling within the town of Tralee and the environment, I suppose, the extended environment as well. So it was great, actually. We welcomed the first delegate for Tralee Parnell's at our last county board meeting, so there was a little bit of history in that as well, Tim. So overall, yeah, I'd like to think as a county board, we're doing our utmost to develop the game of hurling in Kerry, and we are providing all the resources we can to allow our teams to perform at the highest level.
Definitely so. Tim, coming up in the second hour of Terrace Talk, it'll be an interesting show, and we mentioned Brian Murphy there, mentioned about refereeing yesterday, because I alluded to, I think, the attention that Shane Conway got. Refereeing in our county, I suppose we need referees because the amount of games yesterday at county league level in the different divisions, and I suppose there's an onus in clubs to have a nominated referee. So these are times that we have to raise the profile of refereeing. It can be very tough because different things happen at juvenile level and what have you. But refereeing can be a very rewarding, for want of a better word, occupation.
Without a doubt, Tim. And in that regard, I suppose we've worked closely with the referees, particularly over, I'd say, the last 3 or 4 months. I know our children's officer, Bernie Reen, for example, she's rolling out a new initiative in East Kerry just as a pilot project for called the Silent Sideline, in terms of encouraging referees to become involved and making the environment that they're refereeing attractive. And I would also have met with the referees committee then just prior to Christmas, and they obviously had concerns in terms of the number of clubs that were providing referees. So in an effort to support them in as far as we could, we brought it to the first county board meeting of the year, and the back in January, and we passed a rule, Tim, whereby clubs that don't provide a referee, and when I say that don't provide a referee that will ref 10 kind of meaningful matches from minor level up, that they will lose the last 2 county league games, their home advantage in both of those. So
that's a penalty. No clubs, clubs want that penalty, to see.
No, and look, it's something, I suppose, it's something nobody likes to be, having to do or having to implement that sort of a measure, but nonetheless, I suppose we were dealing with a situation whereby we were getting names of referees in, and for whatever reason they weren't actually turning out to be referees or fulfilling the fixture. So far it has worked, Tim, and I think we've a lot more new referees. So as a board and as an executive, certainly it's our obligation to support our referees. Without referees, we won't have games. So that's where we are with that.
Yeah, great stuff. I hope you'll be listening in the second hour tonight, and for our clubs out there, it'll be very interesting. Tim, thanks a million for coming on Terrace Talk, and hopefully we'll meet up with you at the weekend and all those big games. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Of course, that's Tim Murphy, County Board GAA Chairman. We've plenty more after this break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry, brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie, leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk. Well, now, Brid Stack was winner of 11 All-Ireland medals with her native Cork. She brought her inter-county career to an end at the age of 32 earlier this year. Now, the Rockchapel native spoke to Eamon Hickson earlier about her career, and he began by asking her, where did it all begin?
Yeah, I suppose, look, ended up being part of a very successful team, and I suppose just was very lucky that we all kind of came together around the same age. But I suppose I'm from North Cork, a small place called Rockchapel. I'm not too far from the Kerry Limerick border. Yeah, I'd be near Brosnan, near Montcollins, and in Kerry and Limerick. But I suppose, yeah, we started off playing in Rockchapel. We would have had two sports, kind of badminton and football. We wouldn't have had a ladies team, underage ladies team, so we kind of fell in with the boys. And I suppose, you know, like a lot of girls probably in rural Ireland, all over the country at that time, like, you know, playing with the boys was just the norm, if you were kind of up to it. And I suppose, look, that probably stood to me in good stead, you know, going forward, kind of toughened you up from a young age, like, you know, and I suppose kind of got you into the habit of trying to read the game a little bit better, you know, because you were up against fellas that might have been a bit more skillful or quicker, so you kind of got into the habit of reading the game a bit better kind of as you got older. So that probably stood to us from a very young age. And I suppose when I was under 14, you know, my local trainer and dad probably encouraged me to go for a trial with Cork, and thankfully there was a few of us in the club that I suppose were handy enough. There was myself, Narita Kelly, Geraldine Flynn, Lena Reardon would have been over the road from us, and there was a kind of a gang of us that kind of carpooled kind of together. So it was easy for the parents. It was a way that the parents kind of got to know each other as well a lot better. And we travelled up to Cork for a good couple of months, and thankfully, you know, the 4 or 5 of us that went up, we actually all made the team. But you know, it was a great experience, you know, regardless of getting on the team. It was a real kind of learning curve. And I suppose, yeah, look, thankfully we made that under 14 team, and we've enjoyed it immensely since, and we won under 14, under 16 minor. I suppose, you know, majority of our toughest games were definitely in Munster, and they were actually probably against the Kerry girls for a lot of it, you know. So around my age grade with myself, so when we came to play with Cork, there was myself, Narita Kelly, Geraldine Flynn, Angela Walsh, Bridge Corkery, Rena Buckley, Sheila Burns. There was a whole host of players, you know, and a lot of us stayed on. But we would have always come up against, you know, even when we were under 14, we came up against a very good Kerry team. And we met them at every stage, and they were always probably, you know, one of our toughest teams. And you had players on that Kerry team like Casey O'Driscoll and George Corrigan, you know, absolutely super players who were just so skillful and so talented, and always, I suppose, you know, really put it up to us. And thankfully, once we got out of Munster, you know, we kicked on a bit, but we were always very, very wary of the Kerry threat. And then I suppose, when we would have been underage, when we would have been 15, 16, a few of us would have been asked to come up to the senior setup, and I suppose back then it probably wasn't the setup that it became under Eamon. There was probably a lot of kind of, you know, just ringing up players, were you available to play? And it was a case of turn up, and you kind of didn't know who else was on the team or who else was travelling that day. So, you know, there wasn't a great training regime, there wasn't kind of a great setup, and there wasn't a set panel really. And you know, you were coming up against a super Kerry team and a super Waterford team that dominated for years, and you know, playing against the likes of, you know, Geraldine O'Shea and Casey was actually playing up at that time, and Bernie Breen, like all of these fantastic players, Chick Farty as well, like, you know, in full back line, like there were just some brilliant players, Patrice Dennehy, all down through the years. And I suppose we were well used to getting hammerings from Kerry and Waterford, you know, in the early 2000s. And I suppose then look, in 2004 that all kind of changed. Damon Ryan came on board. He came kind of from, I suppose mostly he would have come from a male football and male hurling setup. He would have played for Cork himself. He brought a massive amount of professionalism to the setup, and I suppose, you know, even little things like, you know, the way that we ate before matches, you know, the coming together of a panel, the panel being very tight knit, and you know, no one's place being assured. I remember I couldn't get onto the panel, or couldn't get onto the team. I, like, you know, would train extremely hard, and everyone was training so hard. You just got the best out of every player. for as long as he was, involved with us. And I remember, I was trying desperately to make the league final panel, and I remember the league final. It actually went to the initial league final got called off. It was on up in Roscommon versus Galway, and it got called off due to pitch being flooded. But I remember being told that day before the match that I didn't make the team, and I remember just being absolutely gutted. But it was kind of a case of, right, I have one more week to try to redeem myself. But he went with the same team like the following week, and it was a case of feel sorry for yourself, or else try to make a difference if you got a chance to come on and encourage everyone. And that was just the ethos he brought to the team from the very start. And I suppose everyone working so hard for each other and encouraging those that were playing. And I think I actually came on as a wing forward that day, which I'd say we were all kind of looking sideways at him, because I wouldn't be known for my forward prowess. But he put me in wing forward, and I suppose, just saw I was training hard and kind of just worked hard, and I suppose that's what he got out of every player, no matter what position you were in. I suppose our first line of defence was nearly our corner forwards, and he just brought everyone into a fantastic process. And I suppose then,
Brid, you have 11 All-Irelands, I suppose, during your time, and you retired at, I suppose, a relatively young age of 32. So what age did you win your first All-Ireland with the senior side?
So I started with the seniors when I was 16 years of age, and won my first All-Ireland 2 years later when I was 18. So, there was kind of, in that time, there was a group of us that were, after coming off the back of a minor All-Ireland success. As I said, we had been together since we were under 14, so we were very used to playing with each other. And then, there were very, very talented players ahead of us. The likes of Valerie and Nullig, and I suppose, Amy O'Shea and Regina Curtin, and all these players who had never experienced success. And then there were players that stepped back away from Cork, and who came back in when there was a solid structure in place. So, having the likes of Juliet Murphy and Mary O'Connor and all these fantastic players coming back in, and it just was. It was the perfect fit, and Eamon was the man to glue it all together, and at that time there was massive club rivalries as well, and however he managed it, he really just made everyone part, all of that. The second you came into the dressing room, you were playing for Cork first and foremost, and you kind of died for the girl that was left or right of you, and it was just that belief he instilled in us from the very first year. In his first year in, we got to a league final. We won a league final, and we lost an All-Ireland quarter final. And then the following year, we beat Mayo in an All-Ireland semi-final, which they were probably the real champions to be trying to take over. And Galway had gone on and won the All-Ireland the year before us, and we ended up beating, or they were with the Junior All-Ireland, or the Intermediate All-Ireland, and we went on and we beat them in 2005. So 2005 was the start of it, and I think when that first year, it was Cork's first ever Senior All-Ireland victory, ever. We had years of, as I said, being beaten by Kerry and Waterford, so having won our very first All-Ireland, by God, we celebrated it well, and I think, we visited every single girls' club that year in the months that followed, and I think that led, every single club. We were down to Castletown Bear in West Cork, and every club was hit, and I think that developed a bond in our team that was just unbreakable from that first year, and I think momentum is probably a fantastic thing. It led us to want and strive for more, and as soon as Eamon called training, the whole team was back again and ready and hungry for more. And I suppose, as I said, momentum is a great thing, and it propelled every single year.
And Brid, I suppose you've had a long senior career. How has it changed? You mentioned when you were 15, 16, it was just kind of get a call to the senior squad, come in if you're available, and it was very kind of, I suppose, laid back and maybe not as professional as it was when you ended up. What major changes did you see over your career?
Well, I suppose, like you say, the panel not being finalised, early on was something, that I suppose even at 16 I was kind of a little bit, I suppose, wary of as well. When you get onto a bus, you didn't know who was going to turn up onto the bus, and you could be going far up the country. And I remember, I said it before, we stopped off in Mother Hubbard's on our way up to a championship game, and we got off, and there was a massive big dirty fry in front of every single one of us, and it was just standard, and that happened on any kind of away trip. And you'd be playing the match and there'd be black puddings nearly coming up to say hello through you, but that was just the standard run of it. We didn't know any different. We'd never I suppose gotten kind of any kind of taste of success. And even with the minors and the under 16s and the under 14s, we would have had a fantastic structure and very well looked after in terms of diet and everything. So I suppose from a young age we had that, and then a lot of the older girls, I suppose, having not experienced that success, bought into absolutely everything that Eamon brought. So I suppose just the way our preparation for matches was so different. The team being announced before any big championship game was another just simple thing, but something we were never used to, because you weren't able to kind of determine who would be there on the day, whereas there was a real sense of ownership, and there was never a training session missed, and there was real accountability given to every single player. And I suppose over the years then people really looked after themselves. There was a lot of extra training going on outside of Cork training. There was probably a lot of fitness programs being done, a lot of kind of, I suppose, not so much weights and things because Eamon, I suppose, kind of, we never actually did a gym program for, I'd say, until about 2015-16. We actually never did a gym or a weights program. We would have done a lot of kind of, body weight stuff at training, where you might have been pulling or pushing other people, and it was always on the ball. It was always to do with a relevant situation, on the pitch. And I think Eamon just had a brilliant knack of doing that.
And when it came to the decision to retire, did legacy come into it? You've won 11 All-Irelands. You're part of, I suppose, a set of 4 players who've won 11 All-Ireland senior medals, and you mentioned, the likes of Brid, Corkery, Rena Buckley, and comparisons with the Kerry ladies team of 1980s who won 9 or 10 in a row. Do things like that come into your mind when you're debating about retirement?
They don't really, I suppose. Kind of the two questions you really ask yourself are, am I able to go again? Do I have the motivation to go again? And the other thing is, I suppose, am I enjoying it enough, to keep going? Because, there's so many other pressures that people have going on in their lives, and there's so many extra priorities and commitments that people have that, I suppose, as you get older, and I suppose as I've gotten older, life does move on, and your priorities do change. And I suppose in the last 2 years for me, my priorities have changed massively. We set up our own business, and I suppose family is definitely number one now for me. And but football has always been a massive part of my life, and I suppose it's probably taken over a lot of my life. But I was perfectly fine with that for many years. And but I suppose, look, unfortunately, football won't pay the bills for you. And I suppose, look, we decided 2 years ago to set up our own sports supplements and health supplements business called MyCore Supplements, and thankfully it's gone from strength to strength. But there's huge demands with having your own business, and I suppose with a lot of my best friends as well moving away from the team and like that, their other priorities take over. It just felt like it was the right time to step aside, and I'm stepping aside with a huge amount of contentment and fantastic memories and super friends. So I'm very happy with my decision now, to be honest.
That's fantastic. And finally, Brid, those 11 All-Ireland medals, where about in the house are they? Are they just thrown into a drawer, or are they hanging up?
Yeah, I'd say after any awards, medal presentation night, they were kind of given to Mum and Dad on the night, and I haven't really seen them since. But I would say our house at home got broken into a couple of years ago, and we couldn't find where the medals were, and we said we better go on a search for them, because we were kind of identifying where things were after that, and we found them in an old shoebox behind where people keep, where you keep your light bulbs or whatever. So we're after accounting for all 11 anyway. So might do something with them in the future, but at least I know where they all are now. So that's a start anyway.
Yeah, absolutely great stuff there. Many thanks to Eamon Hickson, our producer of Terrace Talk, in an interview there with Brid Stack. 11 All-Ireland medals. What about that, Sissy? After the break, we'll be speaking about the Kerry Kingdom Gaels.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk. The Kingdom Kerry Gaels had an emergency meeting recently, and only 3 senior players attended. Of course, they're based in London. And now I should welcome Alan Bailey. He's a Kiel native here to Terrace Talk. Good evening, Alan.
Good evening, Tim. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Well, Alan, have things improved since then? 3 players. Sounds poor attendance, doesn't it, at a meeting?
It was poor, Tim. I suppose I got the call from a guy called Jim Landy at about 10 to 5. Would I come down to a meeting? And London so busy, I wasn't really that interested in going down. But I jumped into the car now. We went down, and it was a fairly depleted meeting. Now, to be honest with you, we had 3 players inside in the meeting room. A lot of boys twirling biros and looking at each other, and it wasn't looking good at all.
And what's the reason for that, Alan?
I suppose, Tim, players are not coming to London anymore, no more than the club down there in Valencia. Boys are more educated now. They're not ground workers or carpenters or bricklayers, and they're just, they're moving on to where the salaries are, whether it's America or staying in Ireland. They're not coming to London anymore, Tim. That's probably the biggest thing. And I suppose rural Ireland has taken the effect of that. Players are leaving their clubs because the work isn't there, and they're heading for Dublin and Cork where the salaries are.
And can I ask you, is there a competition between the other clubs then in London, that if somebody goes over there, you try to get that person just to keep the game alive with that particular club?
Yes, that's true, Tim. I just noticed there with other clubs in London, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, they were thinking ahead. They're looking at the homegrown player, the English-born player, bringing him through the ranks. They have got great underage structure here now, because they seen it 4 or 5 years ago that the Irish lads are not coming to London anymore. Them days are gone, So they thought ahead. We've got 7 or 8 English players now on the senior London team. So the underage structure is working, Tim. I suppose for me, Tim, looking across the table that night, we had 3 players, and it wasn't looking good at all for the club. But we're 3 weeks down the line now, and we're back up to about 25 players.
Great stuff. And I take it that if there, for some reason, people are still immigrating or going to London, that you'd quite welcome, because it's a club with a very proud tradition.
Very proud, Tim. 1970, it's going to 1970. They've had 5 or 6 championships in a row in the 70s and the 80s. I suppose the turnaround that night, Tim, was I looked across the table and it was looking like folding. We'd no pitch, we'd no players, we'd no trainer, we'd no selectors. But I looked across the table and I seen 3 players there. There was Kevin O'Sullivan from West Cork, David O'Sullivan from Legion, and Conor O'Neill from Dr. Crokes. They'd all travelled an hour and a half that night, and I said, lads, why are you here? Why haven't you, gone to the other clubs like most of the other players have? Why do you want to stay here with the Kingdom? And you're 3 very good footballers. 2 of them are on the London panel. And they said, Alan, we started with the Kingdom. We want the club to survive. And that kind of ignited me, Tim, that they had that belief. And I just felt, look, I had to do something. I felt it was worth fighting for. If these 3 very good footballers wanted to stay with the club with only 4 players, then they must believe in the club.
It was worth fighting. I take it, Alan, you would have a lot of Kerry players in the past?
You would, Tim. You would. A lot of Kerry players. Once upon a time it was probably all Kerry players, but every player is welcome, Tim. Whether you're from Cork, Kerry, Dublin.
It's all about numbers. And how, Alan? How can players get in contact with you? I take it via social media.
Yeah, it's on social media. We have it up on Facebook. I'll pass out some numbers as well. We've got great construction companies behind us for jobs, whether they're in quantity surveying, engineering, accommodation. We're sponsored by Murphy Group, Danny Sullivan. So
Kerry connections.
There's great connections there for jobs. So if anybody's coming to London, or even ex-players in Ireland that have played for the Kingdom, we need the players, and we need them fast. And we're going ahead now from here forward.
Yeah, great stuff. And like I say, you said about the Facebook page and those numbers as well. We'll help you out here on Terrace Talk with our own Facebook page as well. Alan, I'm sure you're a native of Keele, and quickly before we go to news, I'm sure you want to say hello to all your family and friends.
I do indeed, Tim. I do indeed. They all know me behind there, so I won't mention any names. I will be here for the night, Tim. So
yeah.
I just want to thank you for your time, Tim.
No problem at all.
Backbone.
Alan, we wish you the very best, and of course great connections, like you say, the Kerry Kingdom Gaels. The name alone, if you're from Kerry, sure, who else would you want to play for? And thanks a million. And that's Alan Bailey, of course, Keele native, involved with Kerry Kingdom Gaels. They're looking for players, and they have the numbers. They should be able to field teams, but lacking that sufficient numbers maybe to compete. After the break, we'll have our own, I suppose, referee panel, and what an interesting hour that will be.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
Indeed, you're very welcome back to our second hour of Terrace Talk. And before I go to our refereeing panel tonight, some comments coming through to us. Tim, fair play to Brian Murphy there. He was positive and honest. Fair play to him for coming on after a loss. And that comes from an Abbey Dorney listener. Kerry was slow making changes in the hurling and should have put the players on that played all through the league. And that comes from Jory in North Kerry. Tim, hard luck to the Kerry minor camogie team on a narrow loss to Tyrone on Saturday. Very proud of the effort put in by Kerry hurlers throughout the league. It was a bad day for hurling and certainly did not help produce a flowing game. One positive side is we have had great battles in recent times with Lynch, Carlow and Westmeath, and it can only be good for hurling to see those three teams in Division 1 for 2020, and that comes from Ristard O'Ferron. Now, gents, I'm delighted to have, of course, a refereeing panel here tonight, and well known throughout our county. And we start with, over here to my left, Maurice O'Sullivan, Pat Sheehy, Padraig O'Sullivan and Ger Lynch. You're all very welcome to Terrace Talk, lads.
Thanks very much.
And finally, I've got you all together, and it's absolutely brilliant. First of all, Maurice O'Sullivan, well known for your refereeing exploits over the year and training these. Are these younger guys than you here to your left? Or they have a younger vintage?
We'll pass on that one.
We'll pass on that one. Maurice, can I ask you, if I asked you a direct question, why would anyone want to be a referee?
Well, I suppose after 30 years experience of refereeing myself, I had great enjoyment over the years. They weren't all highs, obviously, but the vast majority were. And you make great friends. You go back to the first year or two can be difficult because people are kind of, trying you out, seeing what you're made of. And when people realise that you try to be fair, give fair play to them, they look forward to your coming to the games. The vast majority of people want a fair referee who's going to be honest in his dealings with them. They're not looking for the mean advantage.
And that comes over time. I take it that you have to spend your time in the trade to become that sort of a referee.
I suppose any trade, like you have to serve an apprenticeship. And it is that first couple of years that I suppose are crucial for any referee. And that's where we lose the vast majority of our referees. That they don't, unfortunately, it's just too hard for them at that particular point in their time in their lives. And they just give up the whole idea of refereeing.
And Pat Sheehy, I'll move it. I know our conversation now will go to different things because the comments coming through to us tonight, but we talk about juvenile refereeing. A lot of, I suppose, bad press is being given to incidents that have happened in the game over the last number of years. And I suppose that makes it very difficult for a young man to want to take on the refereeing exploits. Is it more so at juvenile level than senior level?
Well, when they start refereeing, they need someone to support them, and usually what we would hope to do is that they would have a mentor with them, maybe a more senior referee, because it's the first 3 games that they do. If they have bad experience in those games, that will determine what they will do in the future. So if we can have a mentor, that's what we try to do this year, is that the people that do the foundation course, we try and mentor them, have a senior referee with them for their first couple of games until they get their feet, and they'll learn from that a bit of experience. What we don't want is someone having a bad experience the first day and he going home and saying, I don't want to do that anymore. A little bit of encouragement. We all make mistakes and stay with it, but with the senior referees mentoring, we'd hope that would be corrected going forward.
If I have John in Knocknagoshel tonight that wants to become, he's a member of the Knocknagoshel GAA club and he wants to become a referee, what does John have to do with the training process before he will get his first game?
It's Pretty simple. John has to come through his club secretary, and he'll be nominated by his club secretary to say that they're nominating John as going forward. And on the 29th of this month, we're having a foundation course in Currens at 7:30, and John comes to that. Also, John needs to be Garda vetted, and he has to have the child protection course done, and we will help John from there on then.
And beside you, as a man, look, he's been fair play by these two guys beside you, outstanding referees, and one of those is Padraig O'Sullivan. And I have a little comment here for you, Padraig. We'll start you off nicely tonight. When a ref puts off a player and then the sending is rescinded the following week, how can this happen, and does it negate the sending off in the first place? And that comes from John Mannon in Tralee.
I think the referee's job is done once he sends off the player on the day. If he gets off in a boardroom or whatever after, it doesn't affect us really. Our job is done in the day. We issue the card, the player is sent off. We can't control if something happens in a boardroom and if it gets overturned or anything like that,
And can I ask you, from a refereeing point of view, is it quite frustrating if something was rescinded, because you were there in the middle of that action where the action was taken with the issuing of a card? Is that frustrating, being a ref, that it's rescinded 2 days later?
I suppose it's frustrating if it was clearly a red card offence, But if you did make a mistake on the day and if it was overturned, fair enough. But on the day, if it was a clear, let's say, a striking offence, and if it was a red card offence, it can be frustrating if it is overturned in a boardroom after. Yes, it is, Tim, yeah.
Can I ask you, and of course I asked Morris earlier, and I'll ask the same question to Ger. How rewarding is refereeing for you, Paul? Because you'll get abused. You get abused inside those white lines. Supporters, you could have 10,000 at a county final here in Austin Stack Park, but a decision made. Does it get you, or have you to be thick-skinned? And how rewarding is the whole process of being a referee?
Yeah, you certainly have to be thick-skinned, but like being a player, like being a manager, whatever, some days you'll have good days, more days you'll have bad days. But when things go well, it's a great feeling coming off the pitch, when both teams come up, shake your hand, and it goes well. And it is very rewarding when a game does go well for you.
And Padraig, do you, say if you had Dr. Crokes against South Kerry in a county senior football final, is it a clear head going into that game, or would you use experiences of if you did an early championship game where Crokes played somebody else or South Kerry played somebody else, and you'd be watching, or something you'd have spotted during that game and that you would have to keep very close attention to? Yeah. Or do you go in with clear head and clear rules?
Yeah, every game is a new game, clean slate. You don't go into a game, a certain player's reputation or whatever. It's a new game, it's a clean slate. You go in and referee it like as if it's a new game. That's the way I go.
For you, Ger Lynch, Tom in Castleiden says he thought about getting into reffing but felt there was too much verbal abuse directed, not from the players but from the stands. Is that hard to combat?
Tim, it is, I suppose, but once you get into the game you kind of block it out. And there's a new thing coming in this year now that Bernie Arena is promoting. There was a game played in East Kerry this year. It was Dr. Crokes and Legion on the 12s. It's called the Silent Sideline. And there's no chairman of Kishton, Tommy Cronin, and he's very adamant about this year. We're going to bring it on the 12s in Division 1 this year on a trial basis, and hopefully by phase 2 on the 12s we'll roll it out to all divisions.
And what does that encompass? What's involved in that?
Silent sideline. Nobody gives instructions to the players, only one person. Everybody else stays quiet, parents stays quiet, everyone stays quiet, and just support the kids. No roaring or screaming at the young referees. Just give them a chance and encourage them. Look, Tim, they will make mistakes, there's no question, but just encourage them.
And that's what I suppose you look at. We're allowed to mention rugby, but rugby, and I suppose the one thing that the profiling projects out there is that the respect for referee. If something happens during a game, and this is within the white lines, I'm saying now, that if you have that respect for the referee, it should come from the sideline as well. You'll have the players, because if a parent or whatever is shouting about his Joe or his Mike that he was hard done by the referee, then we might get a small bit cheeky on the side. That must be very difficult for a referee.
It is, Tim, but look, parents have to understand, people will make mistakes. They have to just give these young referees a chance. Encourage them. They will make mistakes.
And no different to speaking to Padraig, how would you encourage somebody, a young person coming into refereeing? How rewarding, just like Padraig, is it for you?
I suppose, look, Padraig hit the nail on the head. He mentioned everything. You meet great friends there. It's a way of keeping fit. It is great for your club to have a referee. For your county, it is great to be representing the GAA on the field. It is, I suppose, in all this, it is a great tool for mentally mentally to keep your head right, like to get out and be doing something.
And somebody starting refereeing and things going really well, from no different to yourself, at times being on a National League panel, that must be the reward, or that must be the target for you as well.
Oh, it is, of course, Tim, yeah, and it is also a reward for your umpires that you have with you over the years, that if you get on the national panel, you can carry them with you, and they're with you, and you trust them boys.
And seeing as I'm with you, Jordan, you mentioned, I know we're going to go off at different tangents because the way refereeing works. How difficult is it to assemble? I take it you have a team over the years that you won't always have your 2 linesmen or your 4 umpires. How difficult is it to get those guys involved?
I suppose at the start, Tim, it was difficult to get them, but once you go into the matches, you meet these boys. I might borrow umpires off Pat or Padraig or Maurice. I think gave me one umpire in the start. He gave me the name of a fella. And look, I'm still friends with them fellas, and we're still working together, and we go together to the matches together.
Maurice O'Sullivan, what Joe mentioned there, that you pick up guys along the line, is it very important then that the umpires and the linesmen, that you get to know each other and they know the way you referee the game, and there's an understanding, because you can't have eyes in the back of your head. You're very dependent on, for most part, and I'll talk about that in a while as well, that you go to clubs and they have to provide the linesmen, but it's very important from an umpire point of view. You're dependent on those guys for some decisions.
You see, absolutely, you're talking about a team performance. It isn't a referee isolated on the field of play. He has his 4 umpires with him, hopefully, and they are, as you say, the eyes in the back of his head. But also, it's up to the referee to educate his umpires in the rules of the game, because when you have to discuss something with your umpires, you go in and discuss it with them, and they will tell you, and this is what we advise in our courses, that you ask them, like they're like a witness in court, what happened. We don't want an umpire to tell you, give him a red card, give him a yellow card. That's the decision for the referee. But he will say he kicked his opponent, or he struck him with a hand, or whatever the situation may be, and then you take the appropriate action. But assembling a group of people who are and have to be as dedicated as yourself to the cause. Another point as well is the referee and his umpires, they are representing the club, and the club should be supporting a young referee by providing at least 2 umpires, if not 4, for him, and trying to, or her, because we have some girls doing the courses as well, and that will give a lot of confidence to the referee. I think it's very difficult for a young referee to go out there on their own, and at least if they're making decisions and they're being questioned, they kind of begin to question themselves. But at half-time, they have a chance to discuss this again.
Once they have the support.
And the support is there, and it will give them the encouragement. And as Pat mentioned already, we have mentors as well who will discuss it with them afterwards and give them the support required.
Great stuff, Maurice. Lads, you're going to stay with us. We will now take a break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace. Of course, we flagged earlier in the programme about re-comebacks. The New England Patriots in Super Bowl 2 years ago against New Orleans Saints. The Patriots overcame a 25-point deficit to take the game. What a comeback that was. Hi, Tim. Can we please remember the late Joanne Walmsley of Castle Island, former Kerry footballer who was laid to rest today, much too soon. A great Kerry sports person, as is her daughter, Leisha, who should remember tonight, and that's what we'll do. And that comes from a Beaufort listener, and rest in peace. And what a great sport person and a sporting family, and like you say, too young to move from us on this side of the world, to see. Now, of course, we still have Maurice O'Sullivan, Pat Sheehy, Padraig O'Sullivan, and Ger Lynch in studio as we speak about refereeing. Can I throw 1 or 2 rules to you, Pat Sheehy, seeing as you're the encyclopedia of all these rules. A defendant player plays the ball which strikes the corner flag and goes over his own end line. Now, if Ambrose O'Donovan and I were commentating a game, I wonder what we would say, but we'll have to go with what the ref and what the rule is. Could you tell us what the rule on that is?
The rule is very simple. Any ball that touches any flag on the sideline is a line ball. No matter where it goes after touching the ball.
It's always a side, even if it went out over the end line?
If it went out over the end line, some people have this idea that it's a 45 if it is a defender. No. If a ball touches the flag on the sideline, which includes the corner flags, it's a line ball, even if it comes back into play. And if you spot in Croke Park and different venues, sometimes the flags are stuck down maybe 2 feet outside the line. But in most places they're stuck down on the line. So any ball that touches a sideline flag, including the corner flags, is a line ball to the opposing team that kicked it played it against the flag.
And what if the goalkeeper kicked the ball out and it was a gale force 90 wind coming in at him and it decides to move over towards the corner flag and goes out over the inline? Is that a 45?
Same story. It's not a 45. We just said that if a ball touches a sideline flag, if it touches a line flag, and when you're commentating the next time when that happens, you'll know that there's a line ball.
I think Amherst and myself are being watched and listened to now because does that actually frustrate you, Pat, that maybe... Do you know, we'd say that if we say Kerry today is on the Fundy after a big game and there was, I suppose, a decision, controversial, and the next thing, maybe the referee comes into it and the referee did the proper thing as far as the rule book is concerned. Does it frustrate you and the lads that a lack of knowledge maybe by supporters and guys like ourselves about the rules?
Well, no, because you see, okay, sometimes we might be annoyed at something like that, but our job here tonight is to help people to understand the rules and educate them on it as best we can and bring the rules to them, you know. And this is the forums like tonight is a big help to us because we get our message out there. And maybe that if each club got their club referee to go through the rules, and every foul that's committed is a free to someone. And therefore, when the referee gives it, people say, he let the game flow. No. There's a booklet there, and it's from Mick O'Connell and Eugene McGee and Dan McCartan. And they maintain in that book, and they're renowned footballers, they said that every free should be blown, because if it's not blown, the player's inclined to create foul a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. So by penalising the fouls the whole time, blow the first free, it helps to educate, and the manager will say, look, stop fouling, lads, you're killing us, and things like that. So no, these forums are good because the people will get to know the rules.
Padraig O'Sullivan, talk me about that famous black card. When is a black card not a black card? What's a pull down and a pull back?
Yeah, I suppose a number of years ago the black card was brought in. At the time there was probably a lot of confusion around the black card. What is the black card, what isn't the black card? But I think the referees over the last number of years have got a lot better in implementing the black card, you know, for a deliberate pull down, remonstrating with an opponent and stuff like that, whereas there was a lot of confusion a number of years ago on the black card. But I think referees are getting better at implementing that, because I think there was a lot of, I think maybe supporters and stuff like that, they were up in the bank or whatever and then say, look, this is a black card, this isn't a black card. Maybe there was confusion as well from a supporter's point of view, and players and managers, they didn't really know what the black card was for. But I think over the last number of years, both players and mentors and referees, I think, have got to know the whole black card thing, and there isn't as much confusion anymore about it, Tim, I don't think.
And the pull down is a black card?
Oh, absolutely. A deliberate pull down is a black card.
And a pull back a free?
A pull back, yeah, is just for holding, is just a tick, a free.
And if there was, say if you, for argument's sake, Mr. X pulled the player back, he does it the next attack again, he catches the wing forward of the corner, pulls him back. What do you do in an incident? Do you speak to him?
If the first occasion he does it, you talk to him and he's cautioned, and the second time it's a yellow card. Yeah, if you hold an opponent twice, it's a yellow card.
And you have to be aware of
falling.
Jura comment is coming in here. What is the panel's view on how the 4 steps is reffed? Should the current rule be enforced, placing the emphasis back on the skillful play rather than the strength and speed, or should the rule be changed to 5, 6 or 7 steps? And that comes from Tyg O'Slather of London.
Tim, I suppose if you ask everyone in the county, they'll all have a different answer for you. My own opinion is, if the rules are applied, the 4 steps are perfect.
But we've seen in recent, actually we've seen it on TV over the last couple of weeks, that we've seen what we thought were great goals by the execution, the possession of the ball, then going to the next thing, there's 7 or 8 steps before the ball is either hopped or soloed, and the next thing it's in the back of the net, and they say what a great goal is. If you were to go back, the referee should be blown after the 4th.
He should, after the 4th step, he should be blown. Once he takes the 5th step, he should be pulled straight away for it. It should be free against him.
Now, if a ref gets something wrong with a team, say if he made a mistake, there was 6 or 7 steps, the next thing there's a goal scored by that player, do refs try to level up things?
No, they shouldn't. The same rule book applies for everyone. If he made a mistake, he just has to live with it and get on with it.
And if and you would have done in the county games, if a crowd get on your back with a big crowd after a decision, is the ref aware of that, and the crowd are getting at him that maybe he might have to do something else? And we often hear in the stands and the terraces that he's levelled it up there anyway after the decision he made earlier.
No, Tim, look, when you make the call, you make it to the best of your ability, and you hope it's the right call.
And referees are only, that's what I suppose we want to state here as well tonight. Referees are human.
Human, very simple. We're only human.
We all make mistakes, don't we?
We will make mistakes.
Oh, we do, yeah. But not as many as people think. And the thing is that just to put people in the picture, Pat outlined there how you become a referee. There are 3 nights involved, first of all, in the foundation course. And then every year, every serving referee has to do a course. It's an in-service course. And if they don't do the in-service course, they can't referee. They get certification on an annual basis. And not only one night, but a number of nights are held at divisional board level as well as at county level as well. So just to assure people that whatever is new and happening in the new situation, that with change of rules or anything like that, all of those are dealt with. But at the end of the day, the referees are not just we'll say, brought in for one night and 20 years later they're still working off of that. No, that's not how it operates at all. Another point there is, you're talking there about the 4 steps. Look, the rule book I have here in front of me, which doesn't work for radio perhaps, but it's here anyway. That's not a menu. You go into a restaurant, that's a menu. You pick something here and you pick something there, and you don't pick this and you don't pick that. That luxury is not made available to a referee. If it says 4 steps, that rule has to be implemented as strongly as if a player is pulled down or if a player is struck or anything like that. Whatever the free is, the sanction has to follow on. So therefore, a referee does not have the choice. As well as that, you often hear underage matches, oh God, they're 20 points up, 25 points up, we'll give them a few frees and bring it up the field. No, that's not, again, a luxury afforded to a referee.
Maurice, can I ask you as well, are these guys, can you take these 3 guys into a room and test them? That rule book must be known inside out by these guys. Yeah. Are guys tested on a regular basis? Just like if you're going for a driving test in the morning, there's certain steps you go for the driving test, and you do the written test, you can call it whatever test you like. Are these guys tested? Or
well, Padraig can tell you actually there about the national level maybe first, and you come back to me then about county level.
Yeah, Padraig, tell me about I take it I'm aware of the medical and I suppose likewise the physical test that's been done. What about as far as knowing the rules? Are you tested?
Yeah, every January in Croke Park team we're tested. We're asked 50 questions in 30 minutes, and we have to get 47 of those 50 questions correct. And if we don't get the 47 questions correct, then we can't referee in the national leagues. Myself and Ger have been through that for a good number of years.
Seamus Mulville, I suppose, in recent times had to
Seamus is there now as well. Yeah, so
that's why every time I see Seamus Mulvey, he's a book in his hand and he's studying those rules, and I'm sure he's listening to us tonight. Pat Sheehy, can I ask you about when you're presenting a team sheet for 2 teams, say St. Pat's were playing Keele yesterday, I take it the names have to be in Irish?
Yes, as Maurice said there, we have to go by the rule book. We don't write the rule book. The clubs, through their delegates, make motions, and the rules are put down on paper. Then it's our task then to implement those rules, and we train the referees to carry out those. For the team sheet, there are duties that a referee must have. He has duties and he has powers. His powers are what he can do. His duties are what he must do. And it is very important before all matches that the referee gets the 2 team sheets, because it has consequences. If he gets the team sheet from one team and doesn't get it from the other team, and 2 people strike each other before the ball is thrown in or just as the ball is thrown in, the team that gave him the team sheet cannot replace that player, whereas the other team can. And you can imagine after a throw-in or before a throw-in, when the referee has his one team sheet got and the player of the team sheet has gone off, no sub, right? The other team then are allowed to replace that player, which a lot of people don't realise. And the next thing is you have 15 against 14. You can imagine the controversy that's going to cause. Secondly, the team sheet is an account that a player is playing for insurance purpose and so forth. It's an account that he's there, he's played, and if he gets hurt in insurance, at least he's down on the team sheet. And that's why team sheets are very, very important.
Padraig, we see teams out there, or clubs nowadays, that they find it very difficult to field teams, that first 15 or whatever. What about you go down to beat Lynch for argument's sake this minute, and we've had their chairperson on over the past couple of weeks where they're very tight in numbers. Just for argument's sake, we mentioned Lynch, it could be any club in the county. You've 15, the visiting team, and there's only 14 of the home team. Can you start that game with only 14 on the other side?
Yes, you can, Tim, yeah, absolutely.
So there's no rule that they have to have 15. If they said they're waiting for somebody, they're late coming from work or late travelling down from Cork or whatever, you can start the game.
You can start the game with 14 on one side and 15 the other.
And is the game official then if they finish that way with 15 versus 14?
Well, no, again at half time, if it's still 14 against 15, you continue to referee the game and you hand in your team sheets and your match report after the game.
Great stuff. We now take a break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace. Of course, I have Maurice O'Sullivan, Pat Sheehy, Pádraig O'Sullivan and Ger Lynch in studio as we talk about all things refereeing. And I tell you, it's very interesting and a load of comments coming through to us tonight. I'm not, actually, Ger Lynch, this for you. I'm not a member of a club, but how do I go about becoming a ref? Actually, we talked about it earlier. Do you have to be a member of a club?
Yes, Tim. You have to be a member of a club first before you can become a referee.
And there's always a financial aspect to everything, I suppose. We can't survive without money. We can't eat or drink or have a place to sleep. So see, do refs get paid for senior club games?
We just get our mileage covered, Tim, that's all.
And I take it the same at juvenile level as well?
At juvenile level, yes, Tim. Your club will give you €25 when you submit the match report in to the county board. The county board will give the club back the €20.
Now, Maurice, you thought I'd forgotten about you, but earlier we passed over to Pádraig about what happens at inter-county level about the tests. So if I have a ref out there that's a ref for the last 7 or 8 years, they probably won't be thanking me tonight. But are these guys tested again? It's just like, it's like, I suppose it's parallels with driving a car. We all get into bad habits once we have, I suppose, that test passed, that, over time things may become a bit lax.
Yeah.
Is there a test, a frequent test for refs?
Well, what is done there is we look at incidents that have occurred. First of all, we get the clips and things down from Crow Park and we look at those. For example, this pull back and pull down. There's fierce controversy about that, but it's quite simple really. If a player is pulled back, it's a noting. But what the player that's pulled back will do, he will go to ground and everybody up in the stand says, oh, he's been pulled down, where's the black card? It isn't a black card. And we're looking at that difference. But to answer your question is that incidents that occur during the year or controversy, new rules and all the rest of it, we go through those in minute detail and discuss them with the referees rather than asking. You see, there's two important aspects in awarding a free. There is knowing the rule and secondly, the judgment call. Now, a person could get 100% in the rules, but as a referee, he might not be a success at all because his judgment is not good. And what I'm saying there is that a person might know the rule book inside out and back to front and get 100% in that test. But is that referee able to function? So therefore, our approach would be we look at the rule and we look at incidents where this rule was applied or misapplied in games coming down from national level, and we discuss those and give that information then to the referee to make them better referees and up to date with whatever happens, and that's more successful than asking a person just for the rules alone.
Those comments come through to us. The treatment of Fergal Horgan after last year's county hurling final was a disgrace, even though he was 100% correct. What did the referees committee do for Fergal's good name? And that comes from a Causeway caller. Now, Pachi, is the referees committee required to protect the ref in this instance?
In that situation last year, I think what happened in by the general public is they didn't realise what was happening at the end of a match. A lot of people were of the opinion that a referee tells the person it's the last puck of the game. Under no circumstances will any referee tell a person it's the last puck of the game, because the referee does not know it's the last puck of the game. He cannot say it. For instance, if it is a free and if the goalkeeper comes off his line, the free is retaken, or that is a penalty, whatever it is, it's retaken. So you're after telling the person it's the last puck of the game, and then you have given him another chance. So people say that. Secondly, if that ball is saved and put out for a 45 or a 65, you have to allow that 65 or 45 to be taken. So you're after telling a person it's the last puck, and therefore you're giving them 2 more pucks, so you cannot do it. As regards Fergal Horgan, contrary to what people say, Fergal Horgan did have an after-match meal in Tralee. I was with him, and he wasn't run out of town or so forth, and Fergal Horgan is delighted to come back into Kerry again this year, and he's highly respected. He's a top referee, and he's highly respected, and the referees committee stand behind Fergal Horgan.
Great stuff. Patrick O'Sullivan, is there a rule for managers and subs coming on the field of play?
Well, I suppose...
Just as during the play now, I take it.
The subs can't come on really without the referee's permission. You know, I know from refereeing National League games that the fourth official will come over the radio to me and say, Padraig, next break in play, is it okay if we make a substitution? So the referee has to be made aware of the substitution before it actually happens.
And what about managers infringe? You know, we all get passionate on the sideline. If our team or something happens that we're not happy with, and you come out and you're remonstrating with the ref, what do you give a manager a chance? Look, go back into your zone, or else you'll end up in the stand.
Well, I know at National League level, there's a Mayor Forna, and he's allowed into the pitch during a break in play. And managers are not allowed into the pitch.
What about local level? What about a county league game?
Again,
it's hot and heavy. It's level. A minute to go.
Absolutely. Like, I suppose what you do is, look, you have a word with the manager and say, look, sorry, but look, please leave the pitch or whatever, you know. Yeah.
All right. Best referee at underage level in football is the one who talks to the players, but not all referees do this. Sometimes tell the players go away when... Oh yeah, that's a very good point actually. When asked what was the foul for. Do you explain, in each instance, look, that's why I give it to her? Or do you give a hand signal? Or do you speak? If I asked you, what was that for, Ger? If I was a player and there was a foul against me, I'd ask you, Ger, what was that for? Would you explain to the player?
Oh, of course, Tim. Like, it's only common courtesy if a player asks you why did you pull him for a free, you explain to him what was for. There's no need to go into a big essay. Just explain to us. You pulled his jersey, move on, away we go.
Morris, hi Timmy, in hurling, do the referees in the studio think it is time for 2 referees on the field? The reason I say that, it's hard for a referee to travel the length of the field, probably the fastest sport in the world, and that comes from Ken O'Day.
That has often been discussed, and there's pros and cons in that one. But as I said to an answer to an earlier question there, if you have a very good team of officials, they're well capable of marshalling the whole field of play. You have 2 linesmen, you have 4 umpires, you have the referee, and before any game, obviously the referee is in constant contact with his own umpires, educating them, telling them what he wants from them. And at inter-county level, obviously the linesmen are inter-county referees themselves. The referee will have a discussion with them on the phone a few days beforehand about what he wants. Again, a final discussion before the game starts. And I think that the one referee is well capable of officiating at the game. You can argue that 2 referees would be helpful, but I suppose at the moment you're fairly short on referees, you know, and that sort of a thing, and that makes it difficult because you see, you have to realise even here in Kerry we have about 11 or 12 referees on either the provincial or national level, and if there are provincial games on until weekend, you could be down 10 or 11 referees because at Munster level usually it's the referee picks his own 2 linesmen. Is that still the case? So if you've got 2 referees out, you could be down 6 referees, and then as well as that, maybe some of the referees might go and do umpire with that referee as well. So you know, with the shortage of referees, I don't think there's a runner at the moment.
Either Ger or Padraig on this. Are umpires told not to get a second ball from behind the goals?
That's correct, yeah. Umpires are told to stay away from the ball because there's enough happening in the field. They have to watch what's happening in the field in front of them.
Because sometimes, obviously, they'd be closer to where the ball is.
Yeah, and then what happens if a player hits another player and the referees or the umpires gone looking for the football?
Patrick, I've seen in recent times in a game, when you're commentating, I suppose you have to try and focus as much as possible, but where a referee... but he's looking at his umpire and the ball, actually it happened in Austin Stack Park, and we were praising a linesman for what he did. The umpire waved it out, but from where the linesman had a better angle and the ball was inside the left hand upright at the commentary side, at the Terrace side of Austin Stack Park. This is going back a bit, I won't tell you which game.
Yeah.
And then the referee I suppose you call it common sense. He went to the man with the better vision or the better angle, and he listened to his linesman and he gave the point. And actually, the game at the time, the team that got the score drew the game level. Is that common sense?
Well, first and foremost, what do we want? Do we want common sense or do we want consistency? And I feel that this thing of common sense, while it's great, consistency is the best thing. But ultimately what you want is the correct decision. And if the umpire made an error, that's fair enough. He's human, the same as everyone else. We bring in the umpires to train them and so forth. And if the linesman had a better view of it and the correct decision was at the end was given, that's the main thing.
Padraig, yesterday, and I'll mention Shane Conway, could be happened to a player in Gaelic football as well, but we got a number of comments in tonight, and we actually observed it during the commentary as well, that Shane would get possession of the ball, he'd go past one tackle and pretty hefty, belt of a shoulder or whatever, there was another guy waiting to hit him again. He was actually, it looked like he was targeted, to be honest, because there was three, because he's such an outstanding talent. But you can't, like, there was a third man tackle, maybe there was a fourth man tackle in some instances. You can only deal with the first, I say, tackle that's illegally done, to say.
Well, I think, like Pat was saying earlier on, the referee's job would have been a lot easier for him if he blew for the first foul and gave the free, you know. Obviously there the referee is trying to play advantage and there is no clear advantage and he's getting hammered as the player goes on. All of a sudden then the player could get frustrated and could draw out or something like that, whereas the referee would give the first free and go with that. You know?
And I don't know if it ever happened to you. Did you become injured during a game when you were refereeing?
Have I become injured, is it?
Yeah.
No, I've been...
Yesterday, it happened yesterday in this game. After 15 or 16 minutes, the man that was appointed to referee the game, the name evades me right now, but he was a clear man. After 15 or 16 minutes, he had to go off the pitch and another one of the officials came in and referee. So if you were a team that was testing the referee, it's actually giving you a bit of space again because there's a new ref on the line. In instances like that, it must be very hard for a referee to come back in and ref a game. Well, didn't expect to be doing it in the first place.
Well, I remember a number of years ago, I was doing standby referee for an All-Ireland Championship game up in Carlow, and the referee at the time, Cormac Riley, got injured after 10 or 15 minutes, and I had to come in and referee the game. But when you are doing linesman, you're in the zone as well, and when the call comes, you go in and you referee the game, Tim.
Another comment here. I noted that 2 Public Skull mentors were banished to the Terrace during the recent Carnivera final. I'm wondering what the rule in the official guide permits the referee to adopt and to take such a course of action. I don't think such a rule exists. I might be wrong, but are referees copying soccer referees where the rule all allows you to such an action? And Muila Bakis, and that comes from Dennis Guerin in Glenbeigh. Pachi, I see you're like a man in a classroom. The hand up if you want to answer that question.
Yes, contrary to what people think, they say that there is not a rule there. That there is. A referee is in control, and under match regulations he can put the person that's interfering with him up into the stand.
And what if that person refuses to go to the stand? You know, stubborn fellas and rush of blood to the head.
It's very simple. He has there's a lead to follow then. He gives them 3 minutes to go there. And if they don't do it, then he abandons the game. Having spoke to the captain to ask that man. But I have never seen anyone refuse to go because usually the mentors will tell them.
And is this something for Morris? Could be dissent by a manager or a management team? Why would you put a manager up to the stand? It'd be like if putting you've been in the classroom for many years. Like, yeah. Did you ever put a young fellow outside the classroom door? No.
Oh, good God, no. But not necessary. The thing is, as regards the manager, the position is that if there is interference from outside the field of play, and that is impinging on your ability to referee the match, you can take action to ensure that is deleted from your problem area. So therefore the person causing you the problem can be put outside. And actually that was something that I hadn't seen written down until Pat found it in a document recently. And actually you can put anybody outside.
Is it a very lonely place then? Say if one of these guys, either Padraig or Pat or Ger, were on their own at a game, that, you know, it can be very difficult, as we can see, to assemble a group of officials. Is that a very lonely place when you're not just taking on a manager, you're probably a management team as well? No, it'd be very difficult for a referee.
Not really, no. It's never lonely when you're doing the right thing. And that's I suppose, the satisfaction in doing your job properly. it's a lot more lonely coming home in your car thinking about that you hadn't the bottle to actually take the proper action, the proper course of action. And I think that is something that you're looking for in referees, that they will stand up and be counted and apply the rule accordingly.
Hi Tim, I did basketball referee at a secondary school level in St. Bridget's. It can be a difficult job at times. Great programme, and that comes from Sheila Fogarty, Green Lawn, Killarney. Thanks a million for that, Sheila. Would the ref panel encourage clubs around the county to invite refs to training sessions every now and again to go through the new rules? And is that okay? And that comes from a Sauk. Actually, good text there. Good question.
Well, we already said that every club. Well, you had the county board chairman on earlier on, and he was telling the consequences of not having a referee. But every club should have a referee. Okay. Now, this weekend alone was a bad weekend out on the fields, weather-wise, and we had 53 referees in Kerry out this weekend refereeing matches, and that they're all.
And huge congratulations to them, because that's very difficult.
They have to be thanked for that. Like, it wasn't the best of weather like that, and so forth. So we must thank our referees and the clubs if they just got the referee for one night, possibly maybe December, January, for one hour across that time, and just go through the rules. It is amazing what you learn, and everyone will learn from it like that. And the referees themselves will probably get a feedback, because there'll be players in the body of the floor or mentors and say, well, I saw this last week, or I saw this last year, this happened to us. Why did it happen to us? And there might be a very valid explanation. And you hear people there, saying, he got a yellow card for a push. He mightn't have got the yellow card for the push. It might be his third or fourth, maybe a thing like that. So he might have already had 2 pushes already, or 2 holes already. So he wasn't getting the yellow card for that particular one. And that's why people don't understand that.
We're coming to the final couple of moments of I having the panel here, and absolutely brilliant as the amount of text, and we've generated news and comments out there, which is absolutely brilliant, because we're very passionate about our games here in Kerry. Padraig, once again, and you take I suppose a great reward, and you've done very well as far as inter-county games or whatever. You moved up along the ladder. So for anybody out there tonight that would have any fear of reffing, it's all about, I suppose, in the sense that wanting to do something and putting your mark. There's rules there, and just to execute them, I take it.
Absolutely, Tim. It's like anything in life. You'll get out of refereeing what you put into refereeing. 15 years ago when I started out refereeing at under 12 level, I never dreamt of refereeing an All-Ireland final in Croke Park, and I've been lucky enough in that time to have refereed 4 senior county finals in Kerry, Munster finals at minor, under 21, club finals, and at All-Ireland referee level, I suppose I refereed an All-Ireland under 21 final, a Connacht senior final. So I've been lucky, and it's taken me on a great journey. I'd recommend it to anyone, Tim.
And you're as passionate as the day you...
Since I started, yeah.
Ger, would you say the same? Obviously you wouldn't have done it, and you wouldn't have stayed at it so long, but it's been rewarding for you.
I would, of course, Tim, yeah. Very rewarding, as Padraig says. It's taking you places that you've only dreamt of going.
So you're ticking the box for the Ballymackelligot club, that when they're looking at the county board, that I take it there'll be no points taken off for home concession of home venue come in, because you tick that box. You'll have 10 competitive games completed by June.
I will, Tim, but I'm also chairman, so I'll make sure that we won't lose home venue for our last 2 games anyway.
I tell you, it's a game of politics. Pat, likewise, you've been at it a long time. You've been involved in advising these guys around you. I take it you'd highly recommend being a referee.
Yes, well, the 4 of us here around the table here tonight, we've all refereed county finals. Marish and myself have been lucky enough to do both hurling and football finals, and it's our duty then to give back what we got and hand it on in a better state. The refereeing committee in Kerry, keep it going and improve it.
I'll give out your number tonight. I tell the fellas phone you, and ladies out there phone you tomorrow. They'll want to become referees. Morris, a quick word with you.
Yeah, absolutely, most enjoyable. But I'll tell you, it's a family affair as well. You see, when fellas are playing there at 20, 21 years of age, the vast majority are single guys, but when you're in your 30s, they're probably young kids and all the rest of it. But I remember one occasion I refereed a match in Croke Park, and the following evening I was refereeing an under 12 game in Ardfert, and I was going out the door, and I was in my tracksuit. My wife said to me, "Where are you going?" I said, "You ever listen to me?" Of course, bad mistake, but anyway. I said, "No," I said, "I'm going out to referee the under 12 match above in Ardfert." Like that, she said. Look, she said, every game is important to the players taking part. Get tugged out, go up there and all the rest of it. We just went over the style going into the pitch in Alfert, and straight away 2 young fellas who were tagged out said, oh great, we've a proper referee this evening. But there's a lot of enjoyable and funny incidents happen. Have I time to tell you one?
Once you make it very fast.
I will, yeah. Okay. I sent off a player many years ago, and then about 10 years afterwards I was around the same area, the same part of Kerry, and my car, actually I got a puncture, and the jack wasn't working properly. So who pulled up behind me? The guy I had sent off about 10 years ago. He said, oh, is that yourself? And I said, yeah, is that you? He said, it is.
He left you there.
He said, my wife is over there. She said, in the car. He said, come out, she said, and I'll tell you, look who's here. The guy who sent me off above on the pitch, the only time in my life I was sent off. Well, she said, fair play to you, straightened that fella.
Great stuff, Morris. Morris, you've been absolutely brilliant. We could have go on for hours, but I think you represented the refereeing side of the world brilliantly tonight. Likewise, Pat Sheehy, Pádraig O'Sullivan and Ger Lynch, the best of luck for the season. We now take a break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk. Now we change disciplines for a moment. A Carciveen native, Grace Lynch, represented the Irish team in recent weeks when she took part in the Armagh International 3K road race. The Limerick-based runner also set a personal best in that race, and she's now on the line. A very good evening to you, Grace.
Good evening, how are you?
Grace, that was no mean feat. Must mean a lot to you.
It certainly does. I've been running for as long as I can remember, and I've put in a lot of hard work and dedication down through the years, and it's just really nice, to make that transition from kind of junior to senior athlete and getting my first Irish senior best, so I'm absolutely delighted.
And I take it from here there's bigger aims, bigger targets that you have to take care of?
Definitely, yeah. I'm always kind of looking towards my next goal and, trying to improve my personal best all the time, so over the coming months, just looking at 10Ks, 10 milers, and trying to improve those distances as much as I can. And hopefully, over the next couple of years, I'll just keep a consistent improvement to my form and my running, and I'll see just where that takes me then.
Grace, to win a 3K, are you building up for, like you say, be it the middle distance or the longer distance in time to come? Is that part of the regime, that step?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think in the long term, in the long term goals, it's going to be marathon. That's kind of where I'm headed, and that kind of seems to be where I'm best at. The longer stuff, the 10 mile. I've done a couple of half marathons, and I've really improved my form over those in the last year or so. So, yeah, long term goals it's going to be the marathon. The shorter stuff wouldn't be my forte, but I had a great time in Armagh. It was an amazing experience just to get up there with those kind of calibre of athletes and put myself up there and put on a good performance.
Yeah, great stuff. And what is training like? I take it totally committed, right, during the week?
Yeah, completely. It's pretty much every day, even on my off day, I'm still trying to recover as best I can, and I'd have a couple of double days during the week, so it's quite a balancing act between work and training full time. You have to really dedicate your life to it if you want to be competing at this level. So that means I have to go for a nap during the day. I do. So yeah, it's quite fun, but I love it. I love the sport. I've met some incredible people.
And Grace, what do you work at, Grace? Does it complement what you're training?
Yeah, so currently I'm working in a leisure club, and then I've started up my own business as well, so I'm a physical therapist as well, so it is really it complements my running quite a lot, because I would train a couple of athletes as well, so I suppose my knowledge in that sense is great, and it's helped me a lot in my running career as well.
And what's your next race, or what's your next competitive event?
So this weekend I'm competing in Portlaoise, in the Portlaoise 5K as part of the GAA Race Series.
So you're up another 2K from the 3K. Grace, unfortunately we're running out of time, but we'd love to have an extended interview in the weeks to come, and we look out for you in that next event in Portlaoise. Thanks a million for coming on Terrace Talk tonight.
Thank you very much.
Of course, that's Carciveen native Grace Lynch, and brilliant, another Kerry person doing very well. Our panel is still here. We'll take a photograph and we'll put it up on the Terrace Talk Facebook tonight, and many thanks to Morris, of course Pat, Pádraig and Ger. Brilliant tonight. Thanks to everybody who contributed. It was a very, very busy show. We look forward to the weekend. Radio Kerry are live from Brid Stack Park, the Kerry versus Mayo game. We'll be hopefully in a league final, and likewise Dr. Crooks, we wish them all the best on St. Patrick's Day. What a weekend of sport. Of course, Ireland are out against Wales as well. Many thanks to Matthew Green, who was on sound tonight. Likewise, the man from Onascall, he lost yesterday, but he reckons they'll win in the second round of the County League. Eamon Hickson, thanks you very much. And until next time, this is Tim Moynihan saying goodbye.
This is Radio Kerry.
Thanks for listening to this podcast from Radio Kerry. For more, go to radiokerry.ie/podcasts or search iTunes using the keyword Radio Kerry.